Welcome to my channel. My name is Kaz and I'm an intuitive and a healer. That's how I start most of my videos, but with this series of videos it's going to be a little different. We are going to do a 90-day, mostly carnivore diet. If you haven't heard of the carnivore diet before, I will talk about it a little bit later, so just hang on in there. When I say we, I mean my son and I, and we're doing it for health reasons mainly. So, if you'd like to join us every day, that you're most welcome. Today is the 1st of May. Now, I probably won't post these on the day that I film them because I don't know if any of you have a YouTube channel. If you do, I salute you because, as you know, it's quite a lot of work getting videos together and I would be very challenged to get them out on the day that I'm filming. So they may be even up to a week later. I do have some issues with power outages and internet service where I am, so I just want to give myself a little bit of leeway with that. So we'll move on. So these are pictures of me. Now, I have never really shown my face on my videos before, so this is quite confronting for me, and I hope you be kind. So obviously I'm obese, and how did I get to this point? Well, it's been quite a long journey, quite frankly, and I have been obese or overweight for a good 10 years or so now. I'm going to probably start with the fact that I do have good health literacy. So I do have 2 degrees in health science, one in nursing and one in Western herbal medicine. So it's not from lack of education. It's more a number of things, I think. It was emotional and also food intolerances. So I have a salicylate sensitivity. I might actually pop it up on the screen so you can see how that's spelt. I've probably had it most of my life, but it only seemed to come out when I was very stressed. And for many, many years, it wasn't until I was in my 40s I realised what it was. And so I had actually no way of treating it. And it would just be random symptoms that would come and go. So I remember as a child being incredibly itchy overnight. And as a child, I ate a lot of fruit and vegetables. So I should preface this by saying that salicylates are prevalent in most fruit and vegetables. And some are lower and some are higher in salicylates. And it seemed to be that all the fruit and vegetables that I loved were incredibly high in salicylates. So I think in my late teenage years, I noticed it. I was studying nursing at the time. It was a stressful time for me relationship-wise as well. And what I mainly noticed was I had a lot of acne, and particularly on my chest and on my neck and under my jaw. So a lot of people told me it was hormonal, and I just kind of went with that. And this has reoccurred throughout my life, even as a mature adult. The other things that I used to get was really bad sinusitis. So I started getting that in my mid-30s. And again, I was having a really stressful time in life, and that happened. At the time, I was studying naturopathy, and everything is treated with herbs, diet, and sometimes homeopathics. And I was reacting to all of them. I did also train as an aromatherapist. I didn't practice for very long because I started reacting to the aromatherapy oils as well, and even the ones that are least reactive. So it would come and go. So I'd react maybe for a few weeks and then it would go away. And I really didn't know what was going on. I did learn about salicylates as a naturopath, but it didn't really click with me then. And for many years, I thought I had a dairy intolerance. But what I wasn't realising was what I was consuming with dairy also had salicylates in it. So it might be something like a fruit yogurt or cheese with caramelized onions. So it was always something that was in the dairy. I never just had plain dairy. It was always something with it. Or I might have had cheese and olives, which are high in salicylates. So it wasn't until um, I became a vegan for only 3 months. Um, Probably, I don't know how old I was then. Anyway, it was probably in my late 30s. And I did it for 3 months and I just did not thrive on it. I lost a lot of weight, sure, but I felt like crap. And I had very blotchy skin. My menstrual cycle was all out of whack and I was really irritable. So one day I just went, no, I'm just going to eat some meat and see how I feel. And I felt better. And I went back to my usual diet, which included a lot of chocolate. So even though I have all of this training in health, I just couldn't pinpoint what it was, and other people couldn't help me either. So fellow naturopaths weren't able to pinpoint it. And I just kind of went, oh well, and just soldiered on. So I think probably it wasn't until I went back to working full time in nursing that it reappeared again. And this was probably about 5 years ago now. I'm now 53. And probably about 5 years ago, I started having really bad sinusitis again, and the itchiness at night, and restless legs at night sweats. And I thought, oh, maybe I'm going into menopause. And I probably was perimenopausal, but there wasn't the cause for it. Like, I would actually get up out of bed on a hot evening or a hot night and wet a tea towel and wrap it around my feet because my feet were always burning. And then it got to the point where I was having organ pain. It was like my liver was hurting and I was having all sorts of aches and pains in my abdomen, and they're just unexplainable. And I went to see the doctor. Nobody could help me. So I was that plagued by this point. I had really bad dandruff as well, and just itchy all over. But my skin was pretty much intact. So I kind of had a light bulb moment, and I think it was more like my intuition kicking in there because I kept asking, what is this? What is this? And salicylates popped into my mind. And when I looked into it a lot more closely, I went, oh my goodness, that's what it is. It had been so long, and it just took me so long to realize what it was. So when I really started looking at what I was eating very high salicylate foods. And when I cut them down, I actually felt heaps better. But what really helped was doing water fasts. So I found that with the low salicylate diet, I felt quite yucky on it. It has a lot of white bread, white rice. The foods, the vegetables are mainly Brussels sprouts, cabbage, green beans, bean shoots, and might be bamboo shoots, and just sort of those sorts of things that are okay for like 3 or 4 weeks, but after a while, I couldn't face them. And so what I ended up doing then was kind of just swinging back onto my normal diet again when my symptoms disappeared, and then just trying to moderate the really high foods. But when I got to a certain point, it would tip me over into cravings, and I would crave those high salicylate foods, and also my sugar cravings would kick in. So there's this whole system that was just crazy. And I would get really bad diarrhea. So I had like IBS symptoms as well. And when I know now exactly when my salicylates are way too high because instantly I'll get diarrhea. I will cough. I get really wheezy as well because it acts like aspirin in your system. I'm not an asthmatic, but I get asthmatic type symptoms when my salicylates are very high. And I listen to some of my older videos and I can hear myself wheezing on the videos or being really breathless. So after years of yo-yoing back and forth between a really bad diet and water fasts, and lack of sleep, I was very burnt out as well. I had a lot of stress in my life at the same time, and I just kind of limp along managing my symptoms now. Um, it's one of those things that you kind of, because you're so used to it, you just cope with it. But I've had enough. And so I was just asking for some answers to this, really, within myself, using my own intuition or whatever. And the carnivore diet, probably about 3 months ago, popped up on my feed. And I went, what the heck's this? And I had a look and I thought, that's crazy. So, coming from a naturopathic point of view, it was all about fresh fruit and vegetables, mainly vegetables, really food with a lot of life in them, a lot of life force and vitality. So to me, it sounded crazy, but the more I listened to more people speak about it, the more sense it made. And I thought, well, even if it's for my salicylate sensitivity and my leaky gut, which I definitely know I have, and I've tried everything for, including glutamine, which I reacted to because it's an amine. When my salicylates are high, I start reacting to amines as well. So it kind of limited what I was able to do for myself. So that's the main reason that I want to do the carnivore diet. And also to lose some weight and be healthy. I want to be healthy again. It's been a long time since I've been healthy, and I really want to get back there and feel energetic and lively once more. So, just looking at these photos here, I know I've spoken for a long time already. Um, what you probably can't see so well is that I've got quite an apron where my belly hangs down. On the photo on the right, you might just be able to see it a little bit there. And what you're probably not also able to see so well is that I have quite a really thick neck. Really, I've gathered a lot of weight around there and a lot of weight around my arms. When I'm often standing or walking or sitting, sometimes I feel like my arms are so far out from my body because I can't actually bring them close to my body because there's too much fat in the way. So I just really want to get back to the point where I'm comfortable within myself again. So with these photos, I just wanted to document for myself really else I've got going on in my body. So I do have a lot of lesions, and I know that they're from blood sugar swings that are going on, but I tend to have them mainly around my neck there, and there's so many. I also have them, and they're kind of, a lot of them are like skin tags that they've gotten darker over time. And I've also got them kind of, where skin rubs together, so underarm, sort of groin area as well. Um, my calves there, I just wanted to put those in because they're just uncomfortable at times, and I do get a lot of cramps. And I wanted to put my eyes in too because I have put on so much weight, and I have quite deep set eyes anyway, but it's almost like there's fat folds hanging over my eyes at times, and I just wanted, for my own documentation, to have that in there. What you can't see so much on that photos of my eyes is that I do have dark rings around them. They're chronic, and they're from my allergies or intolerance. They are covered up here pretty much with makeup, so they're not as bad as they normally are. So I'm hoping that they fade a bit as well. I also wanted to include this photo of my forehead. Now, a few years ago, I started getting bumps there, and it's kind of just grown over time. I've had all sorts of skin treatments for it at my beautician, and none of it has worked. In fact, it's actually gotten worse. So I'm going to try and see if the next 90 days helps with this. If not, I'll be off to the dermatologist to try and work out what's going on here. So hopefully that improves. And on my heels, I've got cracked skin, and this has been chronic now for probably about 5 years too. I used to have it years ago when I studied naturopathy and was told that it's either liver or a deficiency in essential fatty acids. So I take fish oils, and I would say it's probably more my liver at this point because the fish oils didn't work. They haven't worked for about 5 years now, but I still take them occasionally. The other thing that I have going on that I've really noticed this summer is that I've been incredibly stinky. So going back about 3 years ago, I got gifted a voucher for a float, a magnesium float, and a sauna, and I kept that going every month for about 3 years. Last year I went to Europe for 4 months, and so I didn't do that. And when I came back, I just haven't picked it up again. And I was actually thinking it was the monthly sauna that stopped me from getting so stinky, because this summer I just my regular deodorant just wasn't cutting it. This is the only one that really works for me. I've tried so many in the past, and it's just that when my salicylates are high, it just comes out of my skin, and it's such a horrible smell. And it was getting into my clothes, and even when I washed my clothes, I could still smell it. And it's something that has gotten really, really bad in the last few months, and I think that's because I haven't been going for my monthly saunas, so I may need to look into that again. So yes, a lot of things going on. Even though I'm relatively healthy, in air quotes, there is a lot of dysfunction, metabolic dysfunction. And these are all sort of adding up to the same things, which is basically I'm completely out of balance and mostly due to my diet. So these are my current statistics that I did today. My weight is 103 kilos. Now, I'm a metric girl, so everything's in kilos and centimetres here. And I have been much, much heavier. I've been up to 117 kilos. I did one meal a day last year for quite about 4 months. No, that's a lie. It was probably more like 2.5 months, and I lost 10 kilos very, very easily. And I was eating a really big meal, and it didn't, our kind of 3 courses. So I would have something to start with, a big meal, and then a dessert, and that worked really, really well for me. So I wasn't restricting sugar or anything like that. It was just that's what was happening. And in the last probably 3 weeks, I've also been doing low carb and water fasts once a week, because I really wanted to get my salicylates down. So that's, pretty low for me. I have been much heavier than that. So I'm not going to read through my chest, my waist, my hips, because that's really a baseline there. That's what we're starting with. Now, I've done this before. I've measured things and not gotten quite in the same spot next time I measured. So there is going to have to be some leeway there with the measurements. I just did the right side of my body just because it was easier, with my arm and my leg. I did do my neck because I do have a big neck at the moment. Now, with the visceral fat, I'm going to show you on the next screen how I learned to do that through Dr. Sean O'Mara, I think it is, his video where he's looking at lots of different visceral fat and how reducing them helps your health in so many ways. So this is really rudimentary, and as I'm looking at the footage, I see that one of my rulers is bent. But I guess if we use the same rule each time, it's not so much the measurement, it's more the difference between this measurement and the next measurement, if you know what I mean. So we'll have to just disregard that because it's already been done. So what I'm doing here is basically popping a ruler across the biggest part of the abdomen, and then a ruler on the ground, and just taking the measurement from the ground to the top of the other ruler. Now, as I said, our rulers are crooked, and if you do want to see this in more detail, go and look at Dr. Sean O'Mara. He's the expert here. I couldn't find the original video I looked at, unfortunately, so I can't link it for you, but he has some great stuff anyway, so you can go and have a look at his stuff. So I'm going to introduce my son Adam. He's doing the diet with me. As you can see, he's not overweight at all, but he has a number of very complicated health conditions, and he has given me permission to use this. Adam's 24, and he was a little bit shy about speaking on the camera, but I might be able to coerce him into doing it a bit later on in some of the other videos. So I'm going to speak on his behalf with his permission. So Adam is a diabetic. Now, I need to start right at the beginning. Adam was born with a genetic condition called Fanconi anemia, and it affects up to 11 genes. So when he was 6, turning 7, he actually had his birthday in hospital. He had a bone marrow transplant. So the other thing so it made his bone marrow fail, the condition, Fanconi anemia, and also he didn't grow, so he had to be on growth hormone and other things going on. He had quite a lot of drugs. He had radiotherapy and chemotherapy prior to having his transplant, and then he was on steroids for a year afterwards. Went into acute renal failure. Anyway, there was a whole saga around it. He was in hospital for 17 weeks. Anywho, fast forward to when he was about 18 and he developed type 2 diabetes, and that's kind of been not greatly controlled. Part of that is my influence. I was quite a poor role model as far as food went, and I claim that. And part of it, now that he's an adult and he understands it better, is, up to him. So he's pretty happy with his weight. He doesn't need to change his weight. He has got a very fatty liver though, and he's got dyslipidemia, which means that his lipid control is out of whack. He had incredibly high triglycerides, and he had to go on a statin. So he's on a statin. He's on 2 oral hypoglycemics or blood sugar lowering agents, and he's also on testosterone because that's part of his condition too. So we kind of joke that he's a bit like a second-hand car. He's always needing tune-ups and what have you. So he has faced some very challenging conditions already, and he's just developed another one, which I'll talk about in a minute. So we're really hoping that this diet can help him in some ways. Now, I am aware that the diet does upregulate your immune system, and because he's had a transplant, this may interfere with his transplant. So if that happens, we will stop it immediately. I just want to see how it goes because it does help with growth hormone, which he's deficient in. It does help with testosterone levels, which he's deficient in too. And it will certainly help blood sugars. So I'm hoping that this is going to work for him, but time will tell. So at any point, he can withdraw and stop this diet, but we'll just see how it goes. Now, I just want to say before the next pictures come up, if you're a little bit squeamish, look away because I'm just showing some things that aren't quite normal, and I know that some people are sensitive to this. So once again, Adam has given me permission to show these pictures. So Adam's developed some lesions in his mouth, and they're not quite sure what it is. He has to have some biopsies. So I'm hoping that before that happens, we can at least diminish some of them. You can see on the picture on the left, I have circled everything. He's got some lesions on his lips. His tongue is covered in them. And you can't quite see on the photos on the right, but that's the inside of both cheeks. On the top one, you can see a little lesion, but it's actually right near where his teeth line is. There's a whole line of lesions there. And on the left, the same thing. So we really don't know what it is at this point, and I'm hoping that we can improve it a little before he has his biopsies done. So here are Adam's statistics. As you can see, he's only 64 kilograms, so he's not a heavy person at all. He's probably about 5'6". I'm not sure what that is in centimetres. Here I'm saying that I'm a metric girl, but I don't really know. Basically, this again is a baseline for next time we do measurements, and I'm not quite sure when we're going to do them, whether we do it weekly or whether we wait to day 30. I think I might assess that next week, and we'll just see, and we will go from there. So if you don't know what the carnivore diet is, it's basically eating meat. And there is plenty of videos on YouTube that can tell it in much more detail than I can. I'm no expert. I'm just starting this. I'm just going to talk about what we ate on this day. So we had breakfast or brunch at 9 a.m. Now, I had just come off a 60-hour water fast, so I was pretty hungry. I wasn't willing to wait until lunchtime, which I sometimes do, and I was super hungry. Now, I couldn't find any sugar-free bacon in my area, but I did find some nitrate-free bacon, which is better for you because nitrates cause other health issues. So I got some of that. Now, mine is the plate on the right because I've got 2 eggs on it. Adam's is exactly the same, except he doesn't have eggs. And I admit I burnt it. I looked away for about a minute and then I realised that everything was burning. So not a great start, but we'll get there in the end. Everything was pretty salty. I did add salt to my eggs, but everything else was pretty salty. So what we've got here is some halloumi, because we had that in the fridge. We've got bacon, and I've got the 2 eggs as well. I also added some kimchi, as per Dr. Sean O'Mara talks about fermented food and how they're great for your gut biome. But I did find that I was a little bit itchy after eating that, so I don't know that I will do it every day at this point. I probably want to get some gut healing done first and then add that in later on. But I will see how I go. I might eat it just once a day or every second day at this point. It was really filling. I was not hungry for hours after that. I was so hungry when I ate it. But it was also incredibly salty. I found it very, very salty. So I drank a lot of water. I don't drink coffee or tea. I occasionally have a herbal tea. But again, with my salicylate sensitivity, I have to be careful with that. So I mainly drink water, and sparkling mineral water is what I drink as well. Adam just drinks water, occasionally has a juice, but he knows that that sets off his blood sugars. We went for a walk just after lunchtime, and when I got back, I was a little bit hungry, so I tried these pork crackle things. Now, it's got a lot of stuff in there I probably shouldn't be having, but that's all I could find at the time. So it has got rice bran oil and flour. It's also got yeast extract and natural flavouring. I will need to source something that's a little bit better. Now, they were delicious, so I'm going to say that. And it says here that it's got less than 1 gram of carbohydrates in it. But I want to find a better source of this because it did make me quite hungry after eating it. I got really hungry after eating those snacks, like I said, and so by about 4:30, I had made dinner. It was quite early. Adam was still out walking. He walked for 2.5 hours today. He often does that. He walks for a long time. Once he gets started, I walked for about half an hour. I sprained both my ankles about 5 weeks ago, and my left one's still not 100%. So I'll often go for at least half an hour every day. Sometimes I'll go again in the evening, maybe another shorter walk, but it just depends on how my ankle is feeling. So what I did here was I had some pork mince and I added feta to it, and we fried it in butter, and then I made a bit of a gravy with some bone broth and some creme fraiche and popped that on top. The gravy actually reduced way down further than it should have done. I probably lost attention once again. So I might just double the recipe next time I make that so there's some more gravy to go with it. But it was absolutely delicious, and we both felt like we wanted more. So again, I might just double the recipe for the little rissoles, I guess they are, next time. So overall, I felt that today went pretty well. I did notice that I was getting eye twitches and cramps. I do take a fair bit of magnesium anyway, but I seem to require less when I was doing a water fast than I am eating meat and dairy. So I find that quite interesting. So I have taken 2 in the morning, 2 magnesium in the morning, 2 at lunchtime, and I'll take 2 more before bed and see if that helps. And I have had some sparkling mineral water, which helped too. But we'll just have to see how that goes with time, because I was actually quite surprised that I needed more magnesium when I'm eating meat than drinking water. So we'll see how that goes. Well, that kind of concludes today's video. This is the very first one, and it's quite long. When we do our daily updates, we'll mainly be talking about how we're feeling and what we're eating, I think. They won't be this long every single day. So I hope that you're able to join us every day and follow this journey with us. We don't know how we're going to go, but time will tell, and hopefully you'll be with us for that. Thanks for listening, and I will see you tomorrow.